Hello, everyone. I'm Annabel Bolton. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Content Strategy Senior Associate at the Business of Fashion. Thank you so much for joining us for How Generative AI is Redefining E-commerce Storytelling, a BOF Live in partnership with Zalando. At the start of this year, my colleague Sophie and I published a white paper entitled The Future of E-commerce Powered by Generative AI in partnership with fashion e-tailer Zalando, which explores the technology's potential to transform really all corners of the e-commerce value chain. For those of you unfamiliar with GenAI, the technology leverages large data sets to create new content across text, across images, across music and videos as well. And it's really reinventing the online customer experience. McKinsey estimates that Gen AI could add as much as $275 billion to the operating profits of the fashion and luxury sectors in the next 3 to 5 years. So today, we're going to spend some time reflecting on the key learnings from that report and offer new insights on the benefits e-commerce platforms stand to gain from leveraging Gen AI for elevated content. And to help me do this, I'm delighted to welcome three expert panelists. Firstly, we have Matthias Haase, who is Zalando's VP of Content Solutions. Matthias, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Super exciting.
Thanks. Next, we have Jenna Flateman Posner, who is CEO of Chief Digital Agency, a strategic consultancy bridging tech and retail. Thank you, Jenna, for taking the time to be with us.
Happy to be here.
Thanks. And lastly, Jessica Couch, who is a retail tech expert and founder of Looks.ai, who also kindly contributed to our report earlier this year. Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you all. I'm super excited about this conversation.
As always, the chat box is open. Do let us know where you are dialing in from today. If you have any questions for our panelists throughout the session, please use the Q&A function so questions don't get lost in the chat, and we'll do our very best to make time for them as we go or at the end of the session. Lastly, if you haven't had a chance to read the report, we will be sharing a link in the chat box for you to download it. So with housekeeping out of the way, let's dive into the content. I wanted to start by kicking off by looking at GenAI's top funnel role in sparking the consumer's imagination. So Matthias, I'll come to you first. I'd love it if you could kick us off by telling us how can GenAI enhance the way that brands create and scale engaging visual content?
Yeah, happy to do. Great question. So here is the thing. I do think it's important to start also not just how, so why is it even important? And here is it. What we clearly see is that the way, so to say, how fast fashion storytelling itself is changing here is exactly the reason why we use this technology and how it influences. So what we see is that our customers and consumers on the platform, and especially the Gen Z ones, they are really driven by inspiration. They seek for information and they want to feel connected to the products they discover and they may opt for. And 70% of them are even not coming with a clear purchase intent. They are on a way of inspiration, seeking for inspiration, and they make their purchase decision, so to say, on this way of inspiration seeking. And all of this, 70% of this basically is happening online. And very important here is that, especially for this generation, a single static image that we knew from the past, and we know from the past, right, is not longer reflecting basically how they want to discover and how they want to connect to fashion itself. So, and that's the reason why we are investing so much in new content formats, so to say, new storytelling and the ways how to bring our products live. And that's how we are also think about it at the scale from Zalando, basically how we can use this in a very efficient way. And there comes the Gen AI basically into play. It's super relevant to have more content there, more contextual information, and especially more dynamic. So let me give you some examples to better understand what I mean with that. So, for example, showing a tennis sneaker on a court or a hiking boot in the nature sounds super simple, but it's really something that helps our customers basically way better to understand the product and to relate to the product than purely have a studio shoot, right? So, or also what we have learned over the last couple of months, basically, that customers, a video is way more helping our customers and consumers basically to understand the product and to engage with the product. So that's the reason why we took in October the bold decision. The first thing when you come onto our product detail pages, first thing you see, we start with a video. And by doing so, we clearly see there's a huge impact. So there is these AI-enhanced videos and lifestyle contextual images, they drive above 10% higher engagement. And customers are a lot more likely to come back, basically, and they spend also more time with it. And important to understand why also we do this, it's not just necessary that we are selling more products. We clearly see even in some areas, we sell less products. But more important, we clearly see that customers and this GenAI content, this elevated content, helps really our customers to make a better purchase decision once they finally purchase a product. And here we clearly see the impact. We see way fewer returns and way better choices that our customers do. So for us, that's the important part, and how we even came to the GenAI, let's say, investment on Zalando. And here comes with the scale we have at Zalando. It's important. We want to bring this ideally to all of our products. We want to bring it to all of our brands and partners we have on the platform, right? And here comes the technology into play, which is super exciting.
Totally. And so clearly, a big part of what you were saying is that this tech adoption is really driven by the consumer. It's driven by their evolution in behavior. And Jenna, I want to come to you with this one whilst we stay on that topic. What role do you think big tech then plays in shaping these consumer behaviors and expectations?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, it's massive, right? A couple of years ago, we had this mass adoption event, which was the release of ChatGPT. Everyone from my kids to my parents were comfortable using this technology. And I think when you look at the role of big tech, when you look at the Walmarts, you look at the Amazons of the world, and you find ways that they're leveraging this newfound expectation and really content in using some of these generative tools, we're finding that at scale, they're able to really influence mass adoption. So we had things like generative experiences in the customer service landscape, right? Where now that my mom feels comfortable using ChatGPT, she's just as comfortable having a generative conversation with a chatbot for a customer service issue. That quickly transitioned into conversational search. Right now, we kind of know how to prompt. And so we can actually leverage a bunch of context in our shopping journey, where before I would type in red shoe up in the search bar. Now I'm typing in, hey, I'm going on a hike this weekend and I'd like a red hiking boot. That's a lot more context-driven search experience online that's driving consumers to their intended result a lot faster and more efficiently, which ultimately is going to drive more conversion. So when you look at the Amazons of the world, right, here's a great example. Rufus, as an example. Rufus is a generative chatbot at the PDP, the product detail page, where now if I'm looking at a remote control car for my child on Amazon, rather than pulling open the accordion and trying to sift down and see, does it come with batteries? I can just ask it a question. I can say, does this come with batteries? So what happens in that situation with Amazon is they're retraining my expectations as a consumer. That was so lovely and easy for me to find the intended information I needed to drive that conversion. But they're now setting a new expectation. I don't ever want to go to a PDP again that doesn't have a generative chatbot that makes finding that customer information easy for me. So it's almost a blessing and a curse for retail, because Amazon is a massive retailer, but also a massive tech company with lots and lots of resources. So finding those proper third parties to help productize and implement some of those akin use cases to keep us competitive and on par with these increasing customer needs, I think, is a challenge and a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. And you talked a lot there about large language models, or LLMs, through like ChatGPT and the like. And Jessica, I want to turn to you now to talk about these chatbots and these agents, whatever it might be, whatever that use of the LLM is. How can they support and enhance the e-commerce customer journey?
That's a great question. I did a little research and we found out that upwards of about 50% of searches on Google is being done by agents and chatbots. So I think this represents a shift in, again, the expectation that people have to have a service from AI that allows them to keep with their normal behaviors. Like she just mentioned, you want to kind of search for things with a description that feels normal to you. You don't want to have to dumb it down. And then you want it to funnel in the results in a way that's personalized, in a way that makes sense to what you're asking. And what we're learning is that that is what the LLMs are making possible. So it's almost becoming the super service provider between someone shopping for a product online and the actual product. And we also should keep in mind that, I don't know if everyone paid attention to this, Google has limited how many search pages exist. So it used to be you type in something and you had maybe 25 plus pages that you could go and search. Nobody really did. And then you were bombarded with ads on those first two. Well, Google has limited that to about 10. Because of that, products will no longer show up if you're just typing it in. So whereas SEO used to be the biggest optimization tool that websites wanted to use and brands had to think about, I think in terms of AEO, because now you have to be AI engine optimized in order for your products and services to show up, and being able to do those things with natural language, being able to interpret the needs of the consumer and going above and beyond because you have access to tons of information, whether that's product information, description information, size and fit information, details about the fabric. You can absolutely create these more personalized experiences thanks to these LLMs. And we're seeing the shift slowly go from just Googling something to allowing chatbots and chat GPTs and all of these different AI tools to do the searching for you and create a better experience.
And if I can just double click on that for a second, just because, I mean, I could talk about this topic for the entire hour because it's so exciting and this evolution is happening so quickly. I think for the sake of giving the audience some really key takeaways here, one of the biggest challenges that I'm finding with a lot of my retail brands is even just the need for measurement, setting a baseline for how they're currently showing up on LLMs. Even just knowing how you're doing is really hard to measure right now. So if you're not working with the Profounds of the world, if you're not working with the Scrunch AIs of the world, there are a few other competitors out there, but those are two measurement tools from an LLM perspective that I've seen and are really delivering in market right now. So it's a great place to start, is just like, how are we doing? How are we showing up before you try to fix a problem that may or may not exist?
Thank you both so much for your insights there. Before we close out this section, I want to change tack slightly to look at the trend cycle. Matthias, Zalando uses GenAI a lot in its anticipation of trends, as well as in the trend reports that you produce. So my question for you is, how can this technology help brands to really stay ahead of a really persistent and constantly evolving trend cycle and thereby keep their consumers engaged?
Yeah, I do think, and here again, it starts by looking at the customers, right? And here we clearly see that the fashion cycles have become so incredible fast. So a trend can appear in the morning on TikTok, right? And it disappear at the end of the week. So especially for brands, it does now mean it's not only about predicting a trend for the next season, it's really about how can I react on what happens right now. And here, that's something where we are introduced, especially GenAI technologies, because it gives us the agility we need. So if we are looking into, and we continue producing content in a way, we do it in a traditional way, right? So, and even at Zalando, we have fast pacing processes. So it only takes us 6 to 8 weeks to produce an entire campaign that we basically predict for a certain trend. Which is already fast, but it's not fast enough if a trend just appears within days, comes and goes within days. So here we use GenAI technology and we cut down these 6 to 8 weeks to only 2 to 3 days from identifying a trend, bringing up the idea, executing the creatives, and launching it for our customers, right? So, and at the same time, while cutting down these days, basically, we also cut down the costs by above 90%. And the combination of this speed, basically, and the reduction of the costs, it allows us to do way more of this. So what does it mean? At Zalando, we are launching way more campaigns than we did before. We are reacting on trends. We go local in all of our markets. We have become from a global content communication to a local content communication. And that is something we clearly see our customers really love, so to say. They spend time with it, they engage with it on local relevant and content, so to say. And by today, we do this. Around 80% of our reactive content, we call it, so to say, we have moved and shifted a lot to a reactive content is already AI enhanced, so to say. And we clearly double down, especially on this cultural moments that are locally relevant. And we do it, as said, across Europe, so to say, across our channels. And thanks to that technology, also we introduced a new format that is called Stories on Zalando, basically, which totally redefines how our customers can discover fashion and cultural trends. So with Stories, we've launched basically our very first fully visual first experience that combines expert curation, short form video, and it's the first video format, right? And a seamless shopping. And we feature in this experience guest creators. We do weekly drops. We talk about seasonal edits, and we even give care tips to our customers. And this is on Zalando, the very first place, basically, where we are meeting technology, creativity, and storytelling. And all of this truly comes together in a way that inspires our customers, basically, and helps them engaging with our content and products on Zalando.
Absolutely. And something that all of your answers naturally touched upon was this need for kind of like frictionless, seamless shopping experiences. And that's kind of a nice pivot now for our second topic of today, which is all about personalization and how GenAI can really optimize that in the online shopping experience. BOF and McKinsey's annual State of Fashion report found that 74% of customers abandon online purchases due to choice paralysis, which is obviously, a really key factor in lost sales and a missed opportunity for personalization. So Jenna, I want to come to you first to zoom out and really look at the why. We know that consumers are used to highly tailored feeds on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. Why is it that e-commerce has slightly lagged in delivering that same level of personalization?
Well, I mean, this might seem very obvious, right? But the moment I open up my Instagram or TikTok app, I'm fully identified, right? I am a known customer. And in that interaction with my app, I am constantly feeding information that is feeding algorithms and making it smarter and weighting interactions differently to determine what is the piece of content I'm most likely to engage with, or which piece of content or sponsored ad is going to capture a click through and ultimately a conversion or purchase. And so I'm incentivized to engage and to feed information back into that algorithm because I don't want to waste time looking through content that's not interesting to me. And, Meta wants to make sure that everything I see is something that I want to continue scrolling and engaging with. So it's kind of a perfect storm for personalization and engagement. Now, 98% of consumers that come to websites are actually unidentified. And so it makes it a lot harder to understand what is their intent, why are they there. We can leverage things like UTM parameters to have some context as to what was the driver behind the actual visit. But the context kind of begins and ends there. We can leverage things like location and then real-time, clickstream data to start making some assumptions. But unless that customer is really identified, it's very hard to get personal very fast. And so what I do think is going to happen is that's going to shift. And I'll kind of explain. I believe very strongly in a future where agentic commerce is going to lead the charge. And agentic commerce means that me as a consumer, I am going to train and have an agent that is going to be out on the internets as a proxy for me. In the same way, I'm incentivized to allow the meta algorithm to know who I am and engage with me and watch my behavior and make some assumptions. I will have the same incentive to train and engage with this agent in a way that's going to understand what's my intent, what do I want, what's in my closet, and I'm going to train it. I'm going to give it access to my Gmail, and it's going to ingest every order confirmation email I've ever stored in there, right? It's going to have a lot of context on me as a shopper. And so what that means is that these agents are going to show up to websites with a payload of information. It's going to show up and say, I'm here for Jenna. Here's her AOV. Here's her intent, her propensity to buy. Here's her discount score. And that agent is going to be comped on my conversion. So it's going to be incentivized to make a case to the brand as to why it should give me X, Y, or Z, why it should afford me a discount that it might not afford anyone else, or why it should give me exclusive access to a new product that maybe another consumer might not have access to. So personalization is going to take on a very different form in the not too distant future because customers, agents are going to be showing up very informed. Customers aren't going to be unidentified anymore. Agents are going to have this information, and brands are going to have to determine how they're going to consume it and leverage it to drive that conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think online personalization can obviously, agentic AI and that kind of commerce is a very extreme form of that, but it can also take, to smaller brands that are tuning in, it can take many forms, like search bar optimization, product recommendations, virtual try on as well. And Jessica, I want to come to you next. Which areas of personalization do you think have the biggest impact on conversion today, and how do you see that evolving?
That's a great question. I think it's tiered. And I would say the first tier, in my opinion, would really be product recommendations. I think what people are missing when they're shopping and what they're always asking for in person that doesn't get translated online is kind of like, what do I wear this with? What else should I get with this? Or how do I wear this product? So having a more personalized product recommendation, we've seen that it can create about 288% more uptick in purchases by just having something personalized, helping the shopper to say, here, think about this and this. Seems more like you. And like Jenna was mentioning, because there's a wealth of information that is available on customers, what they've purchased in the past, what they like, perhaps what's in their closet, perhaps what they spent more than 5 seconds looking at. Those type of recommendations are going to be super impactful because in the absence of having a really great sales associate, a personalized recommendation bridges that gap. And I think when we're considering technology, we don't have to get too space age with it. We just have to figure out what are the experiences that existed that help customers to purchase. And you can do this by observing how people purchase in store. And then what type of platforms can we utilize to translate that online? We're not really creating new behaviors. We're using technology, especially AI, to take existing behaviors and create more efficiency. So secondly, I do think that search optimization is going to be big. So as we discussed, being able to use regular plain language to find something and then having a tool that understands the nuances when you're looking for something for a evening formal wedding. So it knows that you're going to look for something long. It knows you're going to look for something in a certain color versus saying something and then getting back too many values of products that are not personalized to what you're saying. That's going to be big. I think that being able to search in a way that's more human, ironically, because we're using AI, is going to be really helpful. Now, both of these things are managing the customer's expectation, which is the best thing you can absolutely do to help manage their expectation around what products you have and how it's relevant for what they're looking for. And then we move to the third one, which is virtual try on. So I do think that there is a case that virtual try on and being able to visualize how products will look together, seemingly on your digital twin or on a body form that looks similar to you, can be helpful for managing customers' expectations. Of course, it's not going to give you yet size and fit where it's going to tell you exactly if you need, this product in this size, you need that. But that only represents a certain population of your customers. For the customers that just want to see how these things look, something that simple can be helpful because again, when you're in store, you have access to that. You can try things on, you can see it on a mannequin. When we're leaving the consumer alone to shop online and we're thinking they're just going to be able to shift through catalogs by themselves, they're absolutely not going to be able to do that. So I do believe that in the order that I listed them out, I do think that all of these things are going to help create a better e-com experience and also get us to seeing people more satisfied, their expectations are managed, less returns as a result, and seeing them utilize online shopping in a way that perhaps was not available to them in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And also remove that choice paralysis element as
Yeah.
well. You fed really nicely into what I now want to ask Matthias, which is around virtual try-on. It's something we talk about in the report as a key opportunity for retailers. Zalando's making great headway in the space. So Matthias, I want to ask you what opportunities you think this unlocks for the customer experience, but also do you see any challenges? Do you foresee any challenges as this technology then scales?
Yeah, and I think I really like Jessica spot on. So here's the thing: when it comes to the experience, right? What we are trying is exactly to help our customers bridging this gap basically between an offline and online shopping world. And here is the virtual try-on is something where we are super excited that we are now bringing this to our customers to really have also more confidence and more discoverability basically in the digital space. And we do this in multiple technologies that we have launched and right now are in launching, so to say. So first of all, we go into a 3D virtual try-on experience. We start here with footwear because this is something where the technology is most advanced today. And if you consider if a customer goes in a store, right? Customer takes a shoe, looks from all the angles, feels the shoe, try on the shoe, and looks also how that shoe basically fits to the current style. So, and that's exactly where we are bringing this experience in an immersive way on our platform. So by the end of this year, basically, our customers can experience already 10,000 SKUs assortment, 10,000 different shoes basically on Zalando virtually. They can look into 3D, they can virtually try them on. And next year, we're going to move the entire assortment we have on footwear to this immersive experience. But we are not stopping there. We're also looking into things where we can help our customers basically to make even a better purchase decision. And here our virtual fitting room comes into play. So we are tackling one of the most complex categories in fashion, that's jeans basically. And those jeans comes in many different styles, up to over even 20 sizes, right? And what we are offering our customers is here that you can create a digital twin of your body, a real 3D model, size and fit accuracy is given, so to say. And then you fitting these products, these jeans on your body, you can adjust and style. And there you can exactly see how well does it fit, right? Where is it too tight or where is it too loose? Before you make the decision. That's more on making a better, more conscious and more confident purchase decision. But then also what Jessica mentioned is about the styling and about looking into creating different outfits and making the best decision there. And here we have launched by today, Style It. Style It is a GenAI powered outfit builder. So you discover a product on our PDP, and then you just simply hit the Style It button, and there an avatar pops up. And with this avatar, you can swap and look at this style in different combinations. We are starting here in Designer because in Designer, our customers really love entire outfit styles. And that's how we start right now, the experience. But big opportunity, and we're not stopping there. You can create in the future your own mini-me, right? And then you see yourself and you start styling and inspire basically yourself creating styles. You're gonna share in the future on Zalando your created outfits and styles with your friends and most loved ones, right? And with this, you can create an immersive world before you basically then make the purchase decision. And you mentioned about what's the challenge, right? This is all great, and we are pushing quite far and fast into that direction. But it comes also with new technology requirements, and one of this is if you want to discover all the size and fit, if you want to discover a product in 3D, you need the data for that, and that's where we need the industry also going to. If you want to offer customers more information, more data, you as a brand, you need also to provide this data. And that's exactly what we are heading towards, so to say, to really work with our brands and our partners very closely to move, so to say, into these new additional content formats and information that is required and asked also by our customers and consumers.
You know, Matthias, it's like it's such a great strategy, to like better engage with consumers, but to really drive loyalty. You know, I think as the digital world becomes more saturated with some of these tools, and even tools that can kind of ride shotgun, ride as a co-pilot into the physical store, finding a way to keep that a branded experience versus more of a ubiquitous experience that can do other things like price compare or brand compare in store, right? Still leveraging historic shopping behavior. I think doing this internally under the Zalando brand really provides a level of protection and loyalty and insulation. It's a great time to be making this investment, in my opinion, because the world of virtual try-on will become so saturated so soon. And I believe that there is a world where the in-store experience is supported by a co-pilot. It's supported by maybe I bring my agent in store with me, and I do have that virtual try on, and I can save myself the drama of going to the fitting room.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here comes the thing. Once you have a product in 3D, you can use this simply in your own .com. You can even say, oh, nice, I now have it on our competitors, right? On Amazon or whatever you want to have. You have one digital asset and you get the entire experience wherever you want. You can have in your physical store a virtual mirror. And in this virtual mirror, you even virtually try on combinations faster than you're wearing it, right? You style it digitally and you say, that's the look I gonna do. And I wanna have you this look in your store. Yes, you have it. I do a final try on, and here we go. Or you save it, go home, and then you're already there.
Yeah, there's clearly opportunity for GenAI to impact the omnichannel experience overall. And before we close this section, I actually want to come to you, Jessica, quickly. With your expertise in this area, I know we've talked before about GenAI's potential to empower the store associate. I just wondered if you had anything to add on the role that these implementations of GenAI could have on their work.
Yeah, well, I want to say that I started my career in the size and fit technology industry because that's one of the biggest problems. And 87% of returns are due to improper size and fit. So people don't know how things are going to fit and then they get it and it's the wrong thing. So I do think, like what was being mentioned, I think that virtual try-on has to reckon with data at some point in order for it to be accurate. And I do think that we need these digital experiences where it can be both physical and digital, because there are still people who are still interested in going into the store and having experiences. But some of the things that they need that AI could provide is, whereas you may not want to go through every rack and try to find every item, but if I'm working with my digital twin or if I'm working with my data, AI should be showing me as I'm going through the store liking an item, this is all the other things that you can like with it as well, and here's some pieces online. I think one of the things that can happen is we have to reconsider that the entire experience of commerce requires a little bit of wowing the customer, personalization, sharing of data, and then meeting the needs of the customer up front and anticipating. Because if we always are waiting for consumers to tell us what they want, we'll be behind. What we have to do is constantly be collecting that information. When it comes to the fitting room, and I've been saying this for a long time because I got my start in retail on the sales floor, and I say that I spent 10,000 hours in fitting rooms. So I understand the psychology of trying things on, whether it's virtual or physical. We are losing so much information by simply not doing something like tagging products. And the reason why tagging a product is important is because I need to know exactly how this product is moving around the store. I need to know when it goes into the fitting room. It would be nice that the fitting room also recognizes a potential customer, because perhaps some of that data about that customer, the sizes that they buy, how frequently they're shopping, coupled with the fact that I know what's coming in and out, can help a sales associate better understand how to manage expectations. So if we see that, in these particular pair of denim, everyone who brings in a size 34 switches it for a 32. That's information you can give your associate in the morning meeting to say, before you all, give this product to someone and they have a bad experience, give them information, manage their expectations by telling them this info. And because companies like Zara has this information, people become more and more loyal when they can turn their brains off a little bit and be serviced in a way that perhaps they haven't been serviced in the past. And I think that GenAI can be one of the better tools to help sales associates gather pertinent data and information. And then that information should be passed up to these brands so that they can even expand in the digital space. I think like right now, brands kind of feel like there's a disconnect between the physical and the digital, but in the future, as Jenna has been talking about, in the future, we're going to have these integrated experiences, and it doesn't take a lot. I'm telling you all, technology is not like with some type of strange alien thing that requires so much money and investment. It's very simple. We're connecting dots across data, across different places and siloed departments, just so we can put the customer first and give them a top-notch experience that makes them want to shop, that makes them want to try things on, even if they don't want to. And that reminds them like, hey, I want to buy something new and I love how this brand treats me. So that would be my 2 cents on that before I go off on it.
No, that was great. Thanks. Making it very tangible and less kind of space age, as
Yeah.
you're saying. But I want to move now on to our final topic of today, where we will kind of bring it back to the consumer again and really think about, how to navigate their mindset amidst all of this change, through the implementation of this tech. We've witnessed some backlash to the introduction of digital twins, with many citing concerns around the impact Gen AI will have on human creativity, on the job security of models, on the job security of creatives, across the industry, from photographers and stylists to makeup artists. So, Matthias, I was hoping you could start us off. How are you seeing the consumer's attitude towards Gen AI and its role in content creation change and evolve?
Super, super, super fair, and I think very important question also to acknowledge that many consumers are still very cautious about AI, how it's used basically, and I think what we see also, they deeply care about the authenticity, the safety, and trust. But I think also fair to say, especially in the last couple of months, we see clearly the conversation around the AI is really changing. And I do think it's mainly driven also by how AI is used, right? We saw in the very beginning, I would say, misuses, right? Where brands say, I'm using AI to become more diverse in my storytelling. I don't need technology to become diverse. For that reason, we have so many beautiful different people, right? The same thing is, I'm using technology to be more creative, right? So, or meet a different audience. So that's a creative strategy. It's not a technology question. So, and here is what we clearly see is basically we are moving from the fear of using it to a focus on how we use it, responsibility, transparently, and also we use it, as I said, with a purpose, right? And the purpose needs, as we have heard already today a couple of times, the purpose is we need to meet our customers' expectations. And our customers, they want this innovation, but also they want to clearly see the reassurance, basically, that we can, on one side, inspire, innovate in a safe way. And I think that's the job we have really to deliver both on it. Yeah. So, and at Zalando, for example, I mentioned already, we start with putting our customer in the center, and we are not using AI technology for the sake of it. So every technology that we use and we adapt starts with our customer expectations. How can we make their experience more seamless? How can we do it more personal? How can we become more relevant to our customers? And equally important is here really, we don't use AI to over idealize products or even people, right? I do think it's about accuracy. And I think that's especially accuracy when it comes, we have heard that tagging, product information, visual information. It's not about the perfection. We don't want to be over realistic, right? It's important to help customers make really a confident and informed choice and decision, so to say. And with this, we are shifting away our conversations from how something was made to what value does it bring to our customer? How does it our customer really help to make these better decisions? How does it help to reduce these returns, basically? And how does it really help to be more driving more inspiration, basically, and better decisions for customers? That's how we see the technology, basically, and how we also then see with such a focus, we clearly see that it's helpful for customers, and there is less concern and backlash, basically, on the use of technology.
For sure. Although I would say we are still in that kind of relatively early period of adoption. And I think that there's still, for some brands, criticism might be something that, is inevitable, and they might want to kind of navigate and kind of look to kind of put actions in place where they have a reason and they have values they can draw back to, which justify that decision. So Jessica, I want to come to you now to dig into that. How can businesses navigate that online backlash if it does come to the use of Gen AI content through to digital twins?
Yeah, well, we've seen this happen twice. First, Levi's did it, and it brought it to my attention where Levi's thought it would be a good idea to create some digital models because their idea was to have models that were a little more diverse. And they totally missed the mark because people were like, why would you need to create a diverse model when they are diverse models? And so Levi's ended up kind of taking that off and apologizing. But it was a miss because they hadn't asked their audience the right questions. See, this isn't hard stuff, right? And as a former product manager, one of the things that we absolutely have to do is build personas and understand exactly who our customers are. And your customers are going to be segmented into categories. You're going to have some customers that probably want to see themselves reflected and people that look like them and that they have parity with. So maybe size parity, style parity, or whatever. You have some customers that are just going to be about the function of fashion. I just want your newest, your latest, and they all maybe have customers about function. I'm this height, I have to have, a uniform, something like that. It is a brand's job to really understand how to properly segment those customer groups so that you can personalize their experience. You may want to provide them with options. Do you want to see a digital twin or would you like to see this on an actual person? And even just having that option, you'll begin to divide up your customer base in a way where you can recognize we don't have to get this wrong if one, we're asking the right questions, two, we're providing options, and three, we're being mindful. The second example of where this went wrong was with Vogue. So Vogue had put up some digital images of people in digital clothing. Although it was pure representations of actual clothing, people went nuts and said, I'm not even going to subscribe to this anymore. And this has to do with authenticity. In fashion, people want to know that things are real. Now, this may seem ironic because people could say that, well, models aren't real. They're not representations of the majority of the population. True. And sometimes when you see things styled in a catalog, is it snatched and pulled a certain way? True. But that customer base desired realness. It desired seeing someone like them. And so I don't think it's going to be as simple as just A/B testing what people want. I think you have to ask and you're going to have to test, learn, and repeat in a way that is authentic and transparent. This is a digital model and representation of a certain person. And I think the interesting thing about having access to this technology, we're going to have to communicate differently with our customers. The relationships that we're building now about, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we want to try, may be different than when we just used to dictate, here's the catalog, here's the models, here's what we're about, buy something. And this level of courting our customer and having a relationship with our customer and teaching our customers that we're going to want information for you in order to tweak our experience, there's nothing wrong with that. We need to form those type of open relationships so that we can collect the right information and give the right experiences when it comes to things like digital twins and digital clothing so that people are not offended or caught off guard, but we can grow by understanding this is what went well, this is what people want to see more of, and here's their options. So I do think it will take some strategic thinking, but it can be done with authenticity, transparency, and a little bit of data collection on the personas of your customers.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you, particularly on the transparency piece. I think it's so important. It's what consumers are looking for more and more. Jenna, I want to come to you now to talk about, how we perceive creativity. How do you think that Gen AI is changing creativity and, and the future of the creative industries as well?
Oh man, this question
Sorry, the
could
big
go,
question.
yeah, it could go so many different directions. I think I'll play off Jessica for a little bit here. We've all been through the brand studies, right? Where, you've got we'll say McKinsey for the sake of McKinsey, for continuity on this call. But, the McKinseys of the world come in and they evaluate your brand and they help you build these personas, right? To understand what are the segments of consumers that are most likely to engage with your product and how do you leverage those insights in order to create the best content or tell the best story or leverage the best content. To engage these consumers. How do we measure them? How do we spend on them, et cetera? I think what's happening now in the age of AI, which is so exciting, and this is through creativity, content creation, and also through MarTech, is that our access to leverage data, big swaths of unstructured and structured data in order to inform these outputs is these segments are getting wider. They're getting more specific. Our ability to actually service more segments and get more honed in and fine-tuned on who our consumer is. The goal, I believe, at some point is to get down to a one-to-one relationship. And AI enables us to build a path, which Granted, this is far out, but it allows us to build a sustainable set of tools and processes that can actually get down to the one-to-one level. And I think that's what's really exciting. What that's going to do to creativity, I think, is it's jarring, right? But it's no different than analog to digital was for photography, right? It's really no different. There's still people that shoot film and good for them, and that's great. But for the photographers that want to be more efficient, still drive creativity and have a really great outcome, they leverage their digital cameras, right? And so this isn't too dissimilar from that disruption to the creative community, in my opinion. And, I'll think back to like when I was chief digital officer at Snipes, which is a global sneaker and streetwear retailer based out of Europe. I remember this was 5 or 6 years ago when like Jasper AI and Copy AI came out, and Firefly had just launched on Adobe. And, I get a call from the studio like, Jenna, I'm shooting this Jordan shoot right now, and I only have 3 ceramic pillars. I was like, well, what do you see in front of you? And the photographer's like, I have an apple crate. And I was like, all right, throw it up there. We'll use AI. We'll match it. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, we'll use AI. We'll match it. Let's go. Right. And so it gave him the flexibility to deliver on the shoot. But the next thing I got from him was like a desert slide, like on a desert, like in a desert. And I was like, oh my God, I've unlocked something insane in my creative team, right? Like all of a sudden they realize that like the universe is the limit. We can shoot things on the moon now. Like it's what it's going to do for creativity. Photographers, creatives like have to get on board. These are amazing tools that can just allow us to realize the most wild and crazy visions that don't take 100K to produce, right? So I think we're going to see a lot more content, and we're going to need to, right? As websites get challenged, search engines gets challenged, and consumers really look to LLMs and to social media for discovery, content is going to be king. Personalization is going to be king. And so having the tools to create beautiful, brand driven, identity driven content at scale is going to be the future. And so figuring out how to weave our brand voice and leverage these tools to drive more output is going to be super key.
Thank you so much. I'm conscious of time, everyone, so I am going to round out the session with a question from our audience that is pertaining in particular to startups. It's from Julie de Block in Antwerp, who has asked, how can startups without large budgets be distinctive in how they use generative AI? Perhaps we can go around the three of you, starting with you, Matthias.
I do think, especially for startups, it's rather a great opportunity because all these tools are accessible, easy accessible, not expensive. And I do think even, for example, Zalando as a corporate company, we have so many restrictions in data security, how procurement, how we implement tools and testing and so on. I do think especially generative AI is a great opportunity for smaller companies and startups to be fast, to be creative. Jenna mentioned it, right? There is so much opportunity. You need to see this as a tool, how to integrate, how to customize for yourself, because you don't want to come generic, like everyone uses the same tool. So you need to think about, how do I make combinations? How to make it unique for myself, for my company? And I do think, especially as said, right, the technology is rather a great opportunity for startup.
Thank you. Jenna, we'll come to you now.
Yeah, sure. Just to feed off Matthias, a lot of these tools are priced based on compute power, right? So it's based on usage. So in theory, if you're a smaller brand with less visitors and less traffic and less usage, it's going to scale with utilization. So they're actually really set up to be sustainable. You've just got to kind of find the right ones. I think the biggest challenge is going to be making sure that there's a measurable payback on some of these investments, because what I found is that when they do, it obviously continues to give you the autonomy to keep testing and learning and trying and finding third parties that can put some of these more point solutions in place that can solve problems that exist today, whether it's customer service or it's long form content generation or it's conversational search or there's so many now that are totally affordable and also drive immediate payback, many of which are actually performance based. So happy to connect offline if you want to find me on LinkedIn, and I'll give you some recommendations on where to start.
Thanks, Jenna. Finally, Jessica.
I would say don't overwhelm yourself by trying to pick the tool first. First, identify your workflows. You're a startup. You're going to have needs and limited resources. So you need to be very familiar with each workflow that you have. And according to your go-to-market and what's priority for you, I would try to figure out, what do we have based in our skill set? What do we need to hire out? For those items that we would need to hire out for growth and revenue generation, if that is our goal in the next couple of years, what tools can help us to do that? Is it that we need to hire a image retoucher? Do we need to hire a content development team so that we can constantly produce new images? Do we need to hire someone that does admin work? Because each one of those work streams represents a different AI tool that you can utilize. It's not going to be expensive. What you don't want to do is just try to pick the tool first. First, identify the problems, the gaps, the inefficiencies, and things that you want to say, if we had this, we would make X amount of money, but maybe we can't hire it. If we could just turn over X amount of these every week, we could engage our audience. All of those tools where you see gaps, where there's room for efficiency, then you want to select which AI tool can help us to do that. And in thinking in that way as a startup, you stay lean, you stay agile, you don't have to worry about running out of but so many resources at first, and you want to stay true to your go-to-market before you try any type of technology that doesn't make sense for your customer, for you, or for your goals. And no matter what size your company is, all of those things are going to remain the same. So again, identify your workflows, identify the inefficiencies, figure out what is going to get us from point A to point B with what our goals are, and then go backwards and say, what tool can come in and handle this in lieu of us being able to hire someone, or in lieu of us having to fundraise to get more resources.
Fantastic. Well, we are at time. Gosh, sorry, I feel like there was so much covered in a very short period of time. So thank you to all our panelists for joining us today. It's been a pleasure diving into this conversation with you. And thank you also to our audience for dialing in, for your questions. I'm sorry we only had time for one, and for your engagement as well. This content will be available on demand in case you missed anything. Hope to see you at our next BOF Live soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.